Hi guys, so today I'm going to go over the data review part of our MBB protocol, and I'm going to do this for wave 1 in person. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is pull up the participant log, and I'll show you how to get to that. So you're going to go into Box, you're going to go to Studies, Mind, Brain, Body, Logs, Participant Log, and double click on this web link here, and that will bring you to this participant log. Okay, so the data reviewer, the first thing you're going to do is scroll all the way to the right and see which participant is next to do the data review. So I can see here that this is MBB009. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Trello board for the data audit. And I'm going to add MBB009 here. And I actually realized I made a template for this. So you're just going to replace the number, and then you can start the card. And this is good because this tells you what's incomplete, what's completely missing, and then what you might need to amend as the researcher, but not necessarily get from the participant. Okay. So then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to this data quality check tab for MBB009. And I'm going to use the second check because this means that this is the second data quality check that someone's done, so it's more likely that whatever was caught by the second time. Then I'm basically just going to go through every bit of this data quality spreadsheet and look for things that are incomplete. So this manila folder is actually the hard copy of the folder that we have in the lab, so I can see that that's all complete. And then we move into things that are in the box folder. So I can see that this is all complete. I can see that all of these are complete. Sample is complete. Tasks. And then this, when it moves here, so this is moving from the box drive to the hard drive, the external hard drive. And then here we're moving to REDCap. So here we're actually looking at the surveys on REDCap. Okay, so here I can see my first incomplete for the lab child. So I'm going to log into REDCap for this section since this is the REDCap section. So I'm going to click Record Status Dashboard once I've logged into the Mind, Brain, Body section. Then I'm going to navigate to the participant that I am doing the check for. So then the first thing I'm going to do as soon as I've gotten onto REDCap, and this is actually true even if all of the boxes here are complete, like even if I didn't have to go, I'd still want to go into REDCap just to lock the questionnaires that we know are complete. So I'm just going to go in here and lock these. The quality check log should tell you whether they're completed, so you don't really need to do anything here except for just lock them and save. I can see that this one's not done, but we're going to get to that later, so I'll come back to that. I can see because this is yellow that they didn't receive it because it's a new questionnaire, so I'm still just going to lock it, and you can just click OK here. And then I'm going to lock this one. Okay. Now, like I said before, the green check marks means that it was a survey. whereas the empty bubbles mean that it's data that we enter from the back end. So while the colors of the empty bubbles correspond to whether it's not given, completed, or red if it's completely incomplete, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the case for the checks, because if the participant clicks submit on a survey, it's going to give them this green check regardless of how complete the instrument was. So that's why we have the 3 rounds of entry and quality checks to catch that. So I see here that the APQ says incomplete. So I'm going to click into it to see what the issue was. Okay, and that actually looks complete to me, so I'm not sure why that was the case. In this case, I might actually go back to the person who did the data check for this, the quality check, and just ask them what they meant by that. But for now, this looks good, so I'm just going to change this to complete. Then I'm just going to lock all of the other green ones that I see. Actually, it's probably good to check first. Just check to make sure that there's no other ones that you actually need to keep unlocked for any reason. Okay, so I can see here the IPPA. So I'll come back to that. And I'll keep that in mind. And the Wyatt. Okay, so you can stop the red cap stops, the first part of the red cap stops when you get to here. So another thing to note, the NAs mean that that was not given to that participant because they didn't qualify for that survey based on their age or their adoption caregiver status. So the NAs you don't need to pay attention to. So I can see that the only other things I need to pay attention to here were the Wyatt and the IPPA. Okay, so I'm just going to go into all of the rest of them, and I'm going to click lock on the ones with the open green thing. And we only mark them incomplete if it's more than 50% incomplete. So like this is fine that this is empty. We would still consider that complete because we have enough information really to infer what this answer probably was, and we don't want to bother participants to complete just a few questions. Okay, on this one, I can see that it's actually missing important things that we need to have. So I'm going to put this as incomplete, save and exit. And then I'm going to add that note that we're missing. I'll come back to the IPPA. That the 30-second mark is missing and some of the other information. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to put amend because this is a thing that the researcher has to do, not the participant. So I'm going to say add 30-second and other new items because we added a few items to make it easier for us to score these. So we're going to need to amend that for this person. Then I'm going to make sure that they are red here. And then I'm going to go back to the IPPA because that was another one that we noted on the quality check log. So here I can see that the friends section is not filled out. So this is something we probably would want to send to them, probably in like a paper copy of the PDF, because it's difficult for the participants to come back and only do half of this. So we probably just want to send them a paper copy and then enter this by hand. So I'm going to mark that here under more than 50% incomplete. And you don't really need to put a note. I'm just putting a note because it's just the last section. You can just put the questionnaire. Okay. Then the KSAD summary checklist, we recently changed it, and so we need to re-enter those. So I'm actually going to go back and change that here. So I'm just going to put incomplete here. We need to refill that from the backup, so I'm just putting refill from backup. Then I'm going to mark this as incomplete. Save and exit. So that way we know that we need to fill this out. I'm also going to add that to the card as an amendment because that is something that we need to just upload from the backup. There's also 2 KSADs, so just be mindful of that. There's the interview and there's the summary checklist, so just make sure that you specify which one is missing, if one is missing. Okay, and this is just some biographical information. Okay. So the next thing I can see here is the demographics and the financial, and we had a similar situation with those, so I'm gonna mark those as incomplete because they need to be restored. And then I'm going to add that to the card, again, under the researcher section, so the financial and demographics. Okay, the yellow is a new questionnaire that we're not giving to old participants, so I'm just going to lock that one as yellow. Then I'm going to see if there's any other of these. I don't think there are. Nope, the rest of these look good up to the home child section, so I can finish off the parent proxy section by locking all of these items. Oh, okay. This is an interesting one. So we originally had the children doing the HPQ, which is the hair care questionnaire, if they were under a certain age or over a certain age, and then their parents doing it if they were under a certain age. We've changed this for the online, so that's why this is showing up now here. So I'm actually going to put this as unverified because we actually have the HPQ for the child here. So we don't actually need it from the parent, and that's just something we changed from the first to the second. So normally this one would not be displayed to this participant's parent because they were old enough to answer it for themselves. And we should be able to see that here. Yes, see how it's NA here? That means that they were not given this, so we can just turn that yellow. Okay, this is another one that we just added, so it'll be yellow also. I'm just going to go ahead and lock this one because I know that it's definitely locked. And actually, I think all the other parent cell phones can be locked also. Yeah, all the way to home. So I can go ahead and lock all of the parent self section as well. And one interesting thing to note on this one is normally we have these check marks for anything that was administered to the participant or the participant's parent, but because this is a sibling of MBB008, and I only know that because I remember this family, we actually only ask the parent self questions one time, and we ask it on the older child, and the older child is always the lower number. So you can think of that like their birth date is lower, the year. So we actually import those from the other participants, so that's why these are green here. So we didn't have this information, so we uploaded it. So I'm just gonna lock all of these because they're all complete. Okay, then I know that we didn't do the written responses for in the in-person session, so I'm going to lock those. Okay, so now I'm up to this home child section. So I can see here that the BSS is not filled, so I'm going to take a look at that. Okay, so it looks like it has been filled since this last quality check is happened. So I'm just going to save, exit, and lock that. And then I'm going to put that this is now complete. Okay, and now the last section is the checklist home session child. So that is this last bubble here, which we just finalized. So that's probably going to be blank for most until we fill those in. And so here I can see that it's not complete. So I'm going to put incomplete. I'm going to just copy this down, and I also need to copy this up from yesterday to here. Okay. So yes, that's empty, so I'm going to see that there. Then I'm going to put it on the amend because this is something the researchers fill out. Okay. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go to add the readmes basically. So anything you have here, any notes you have here, anything that's missing or incomplete, you want to put that as a readme, as a blank readme in the participants data file. So I'll show you what I mean. So you're going to go to studies, mind, brain, body, data, wave 1, because this is wave 1, not wave 1 online, data. Then you're going to go to the participant that we are doing right now. Okay, so this is a questionnaire. So I'm going to put a README in the folder for questionnaires. So you would put a README in whatever folder. Well, I'll show you when we do the WIAT actually. So I'm gonna go into questionnaires here. I'm gonna drag, I like to keep a blank README on the desktop while I'm doing that, so I can just drag it in. I'm gonna put the date that I'm doing this. And I'm just gonna put incomplete IPPA. So that we know that out of all the questionnaires, that was what was missing. Okay, then I'm also going to put in the WIAT. Actually, because all of these are on, so if I was actually missing the WIAT, like one of these forms, so these are the tests that they do in the lab. If they were missing one of these, I would put it here, but actually since these are all on REDCap, even though they're different parts of the study, I'm gonna put it in the same README because it's basically an incomplete REDCap form, not necessarily an incomplete WIAT. So like if they hadn't finished the WIAT, I would put the README in there, but since this is just more of a data entry into REDCap, I'm gonna put it here. So I'm gonna put WIAT, incomplete, WIAT. So we know there's a few items missing. I'm gonna put missing KSAS summary. Actually, I'm just gonna put blank because it's not missing in the actual folder. It's just missing in REDCap. And we're also missing this, and okay. And actually, it's probably good to use the exact same titles as is on REDCap for our own documenting purposes. Okay. So now I know that that is blank basically on the REDCap. And don't get confused by this. This REDCap is basically just our data backups, which is just all of the data for all the participants backed up. So what you're really going to be working with is the actual participants' data folders. Okay, so now that that's everything for this participant, I'm going to check them off in the data entry section. Okay, and there's one final step. So after you're done here, the only thing you need to worry about next is moving their card either to good sample, bad sample, or no sample. And this is because what the data auditor does next depends on the stool sample, because if they didn't give us a stool sample or they gave us a bad sample, we're going to need to reach back out to them and send them a new kit. So that's what the auditor really needs to know about. So you're going to look in the data quality check. So here you can actually find this in the BSS section here. No, I lied. You can find this in the checklist home session child. And since this hasn't been filled out by anyone yet, you won't see this here. But this is basically where after everything is done and the sample is back, they're gonna check this off. So if it's a poor sample, we're gonna request a new sample. So I'm not gonna show you how to find that because the data quality checkers will be entering this information. So you just need to know to go to the checklist home session child, check the quality of the sample. If it's poor, you're gonna put it at poor. If they didn't return it, we know that this will be blank. So if they returned it, we know that we have it. So the way you can check if the information is just missing, if this is just blank, we know the information is missing, or we haven't received the stool sample yet. And I actually might add, I think I'll add something here to say stool sample received, so this is a little bit easier for you guys. Okay, but I know that this person had a good sample just because I remember it. So I'm just gonna move them to the good sample board. And then you're basically done with them. You're just going to go to their participant log, go back to the data entry section, and mark data review as complete. And then you hand it off to the auditor. And that's pretty much it.